And I hope my internet's staying. We are live, Animal Dreaming Publishing. It's Tonia Reeves, Australia's Cowgirl Medium, coming at you today on the Animal Dreaming Thursday show. And I'm so excited to have Rosie joining me today. And like I said before you came on, Rosie, I've been reading all about you, and I'm just like, oh, my God, we need 2 hours to explore all that you've achieved.
If I have 2 hours with you today, Tonia, my best friend will speak to me again because I just need to take her out for lunch for her 50th.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that. I love it. So welcome, Rosie. I know Scott thinks so highly of you. It's like he's so excited to have you join in, and you've been, friends for many years. But tell us about your story.
Oh, where does my story start? Do we go back to the
Yes, go back to the beginning. I'd love to hear that.
Well, I was always I was born to Lebanese background, so with a Middle Eastern background, there always comes that sense of some sort of how do I describe it? Something very ancient. And as a child, I was always knowing things, and I feel that came through my heritage in some way. I just knew stuff that I could never have known at all. I would be in trouble from my grandfather all the time. He's actually spoken about a lot in my book because I would speak things and think that it was quite normal, but he would be like, you can't say that. And I was probably about 5 years old where my earliest memories of him would be taking me down to Coogee Beach. I grew up in the eastern suburbs, and he would take me down to the beach in the afternoon because my family have always been in business, and I would be picked up from school and he would just take me down there and we would get fish and chips, and I used to look at the water and I used to tell him stories about a land that was under the sea and all these crystals and how people use mind power, and I used to describe things, but I had no idea I was actually even talking about Atlantis or anything like that. And I still remember so vividly just descriptions that I was able to give of things. And my grandmother, she was a little bit of a character because she was a little bit like me, a bit cheeky. I think she had a bit of a psychic side to her, but she never really sort of spoke about it. So she used to allow me to speak of things that my grandfather didn't like me to speak about. And I remember one time going into they called it a factory, but it was like this storeroom type of thing that they had all their old stuff in. And I remember those old suitcases, the old brown ones.
Yeah.
The one with a little handle. And I found that and opened it, and there were all these old postcards from my grandmother and her sister and from when they were children. And there was so many postcards of a ancient place in Lebanon called Baalbek. And I remember when I saw that, I went, I'm getting goosebumps even now as I speak. I knew that I had to go there because I knew I'd already been there in another life. I just knew it. And I was fascinated with it my whole childhood and growing up. And back in 2003, I went to Lebanon. And as soon as I got to those ancient ruins and I had the tour guide, I was telling the tour guide what was happening in that place. It was just so amazing. So I feel like that whole Middle Eastern thing has run through my veins for a long time, not just in this lifetime. But I felt like something happened to me there when I was there. I don't know what. I just knew something opened up in me. And I feel that moment in time sort of really led way for where I had to go with Embrace and everything else I had to do. So it was quite interesting.
So that was your start. Like you had that bit of a vision around Embrace at that time?
I had a bit of a vision then. I still didn't think that that's what I was going to be doing. Anyone who knows me know that Christmas is my thing. So I've got Santa's Little Painters. I've been doing that for 25 years, something like that. And it's amazing business, and I love it. And we do start in 2 weeks' time, and it's nice to get out of Embrace and to get out of that. We're going into high pace for the next 2 months. So I thought that I would always be doing something around that, but I knew that I was going to bring some sort of spirituality into it. I just didn't know how. At the time, I didn't realize that I could do both and do them differently.
Wow.
Yeah. So Embrace came along. It was so funny how Embrace came along. It was 2009, and I was in the process of franchising the Christmas ball business, and a shop in Westfield was closing down, and I was sort of had my eye on it for a while, and I went to see management, made an appointment, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I can ever afford the rent. This is ridiculous. And then you need so much money up front because they make you gut the shop and refurbish and do all this stuff. And anyway, I just kept saying, I want that shop, but I didn't know how I was going to get it. And at the time I was waitressing in my family have a cafe in Westfield, and I used to wait on all the managers there at Westfield, and I used to say to them, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but one day I'm going to get that shop. Or sometimes I would go up and do their order, and I'd always have like a premonition, or I'd have a little message to give them. So they got to know who I was. And then there was this one manager who was so into all this stuff, and she came up to me one day and said, how about we just give you the shop? And that's just never heard of. And I go, what do you mean? And she said, look, we can't have it closed, so how about we just give it to you? You don't need to refurb. And the rest was history.
Wow.
The rest was history. It just doesn't happen to anyone. No one just gets given a shop.
No.
It doesn't happen like that.
No, I know, my background's in hairdressing, and I've owned salons, and I know whenever I was approached, when it came to a shopping centre, it was like, oh my God, you had to, it's so restrictive and so expensive, like you say. So that's amazing.
Yeah, but I kept saying to them, every time I wait on them with their coffees, I'm going to get that shop one day. I just knew it.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
That's the story. I already had it all visioned out. I already had seen it. But I think my experience at Balbec was where it really started. So I don't know what I was doing back in those days, thousands of years ago. But I remember telling the tour guide everything, and she'd go, okay, so now we're heading off to, and then I go, the Temple of Venus. And I just knew we were heading off to the Temple of Venus. It was just amazing. Everyone was such a historical, ancient, crazy, fun place. All rolled into one. And
that's incredible.
I had the best 3 years of my life there, to the extent that I came back pregnant with twins. But I also knew that was where my turning point was in life. I knew when I came back to Sydney that some big things were going to happen.
Yeah. They're just tuning in. Your intuition said, yeah, this is for me.
Yeah. I went on a 2-week holiday there and came back 3 years later.
That's a pretty big. So, and obviously you were with your husband Ross at that time. Like, have you guys?
Ross and I only met 8 years ago.
Wow.
So he's got children. He's got 4 kids, and I've got my twins, and we together are like the happy Brady bunch. Yeah. I call myself Alice. I call myself, Mrs. Brady without an Alice.
Alice is missing.
Yeah, Alice is missing. Ross needs to be an Alice.
Oh, I love it. I can relate to that coming from a blended family. It's it's always it's
so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you started Embrace, so are you're still at the same location?
No, we moved. So the shop that I originally went into, I knew it was only for 2 years. I knew that Westfield were going to be doing some major renovations in the centre. they told me that. And they did tell me that they would give me an option to move or to leave, whatever I wanted to do. When that option came up, I was very lucky. We got given a great shop. It was so good, and we made it so beautiful. And then from there, we stayed there about 5 years, and only 18 months ago, we moved into a smaller shop, a much smaller shop. But the reason we have done that was purely strategic and financial. I never predicted COVID. I don't think anyone else could have predicted it.
No.
But I knew that the way we were heading in business, things were changing. I could see it. I could feel it. And I knew that online was going to be where we were going to really take off, because where we are in our corner of the Sutherland Shire, everyone knows us. But outside of the Sutherland Shire, when, you know, on the other side of Australia or in New York,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? But now I'm finding, since we've really been targeting online, it's just picked up like crazy. So the best thing I did was going to the smaller shop. We've made it really pretty. It's nowhere near as beautiful as the other store. It's really small, but it's just worked for us.
Yeah, and how ideal in the situation. I mean, this year, have you spent a fair part of that online this year where you are?
What we were trying to do with online before COVID, we were getting our psychics online anyway. But I was sort of like playing with the idea and not really pulling my finger out and doing anything. It was like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We'll eventually get around to it. COVID came and I had no choice but to make it happen. So we now offer the Skype and Zoom and FaceTime and phone and whatever else there is. Whatever else there is, I can't keep up. But that took off really well through COVID. And, you know, we get people now from New York. We have one woman from New York who's now spread the word over there, and we get so many people from America and people from England, a lot of people from New Zealand as well. So it's really, online's really worked for us. And we're still working.
Amazing.
Yeah, so for the readers, it's worked really well, and it's worked for the readers that have wanted to put the work in. So if they're at home, they can just turn themselves on, and the work's there. I can't believe how many people through COVID just want to know what's happening, and they just
absolutely
want something.
Yeah. It's almost like that hope or, you know, direction for many, because there's been so many that have had their lives turned a bit upside down, or there's been massive changes, and it has been great for us to be able to still reach them via the remote, you know, in the remote way is so cool. And, you know, I think it's something that definitely will keep going a lot, you know, even coming through this.
Yeah, and I noticed too, now that we're doing phone, a lot of men are now coming more online to have readings, more than they would walking into a shop.
Yeah, wow. Yes.
That don't want to be seen in store.
Yeah, that's right. That's so true. Yeah. It is interesting. You don't think of that, but that would be it. Yeah. So with your cards, so I'm fascinated because I love chocolate and I love cards. So I'm just like, how did you come up with this idea to put those two together? Because I'm just like, that is a winner. And how amazing is that?
Well, I can't take all the credit. My big brother Scott needs to take some of the credit for that, because we were on the phone having a 2-hour chat as we do. And I said to him years ago, I want to write something, but I just don't know what. And he goes, you know what, Rose? He goes, the best thing to always write about is something that you love. And I said, I was eating chocolate at the time I was talking to him, and I said, I love chocolate. And he went, oh, my God. So he sort of like got the light bulb on. He said, that's what you're going to do. You're going to do a deck on chocolate. And that's where it all started. And as soon as he said it, I knew it. I'm like, I was straight into it. It was very easy to do. And I keep blaming the chocolate deck of all the weight that I've had to put on, because I needed to experiment a lot. Big chocolate to sort of get that feeling of what it brought.
That is great. And I was just looking at some of the the messages. They're really quite profound, because you would think, okay, chocolate connecting, what messages could you bring forward with that kind of thing? But looking at them, I'm like, wow, you've really connected into the essence of each different chocolate. Is fascinating.
I had to eat them all. I had to taste test them all.
I bet you lots of people put their hand up for that. I would be.
Oh, it was a lot of fun doing them, and I wanted to do something different, and that was one thing I was clear to him. I said, I want it to be different, whatever it is that I do. And once we got started on it, I knew there was no turning back. We had a lot of fun putting them together.
They're amazing. So yeah, for anyone that's fascinated, chocolate and cards, Rosie's cards are up on the Animal Dreaming page, so that you can purchase them. I think that it's fantastic. How many cards is there? There's a few of them, Rosie, isn't there?
I don't even know myself how many we put together. It's about 70 something. I've got the deck.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
We're redoing the deck, so we're getting we're just making them a little bit bigger.
Yep.
For people like me who can't read properly because need glasses on. At the time, I didn't need my glasses, so we're just making them a little bit bigger. But there's quite a lot in the deck, and I think we've covered nearly every chocolate there is known to man. And what I found interesting with them is that they've always been really accurate. It's really bizarre. I know quite a few of my other psychic friends who use them in their readings, and they always come back to me and give me feedback. But Scott gave me a massive box of loose cards, and we kept them in the front of Embrace. So we just had, free to take, and people would pick the card up, whatever card they put their hand in for, and then they would always stop and say, "Oh my God, this card just means this, this, and this."
Mm.
So
relevant.
In so many different ways.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it just shows your connection and the essence of you that is within the cards too, which I think you can't beat that. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And we're at the moment working on a candy deck.
I love it. You could go anywhere with this, couldn't you? Like candy, ice cream. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've got a few different projects up and coming. So I just need to finish it as usual. I never get anything finished. I'm good at starting it all, but never good at finishing it.
I can relate to that. It's easy to get momentum, isn't it? But it's easy then to get distracted, especially for yourself. You've got so much on the go, and we were just talking before about you also got your book that we're looking at that will be released obviously next year. But I'm fascinated with that. So share us that story, because I know a few people that are watching. Hi, everyone that's watching today, that they can have a listen, because I think it's so unique. I love it.
The Dark Side of the Light. I only have 3 chapters to go. And like I was saying to you earlier before we went live, I start Christmas the week after next, so I'm not sure if these chapters are going to get finished before then. But The Dark Side of the Light is basically my story on the psychic industry or the spiritual industry, and I describe in the book how I call it an industry, because it is. It's a $200 billion a year money-making industry. And I've worked in the industry for 30 years, which is something a lot of people don't know about me. They just know me as Embrace, which has been around for 10 or 11 years. But before that, I was professionally reading since I was in my 20s. So I've been reading for a very long time. And when I got pregnant with my twins, I decided then and there that I was never going to read again. And the reason I didn't want to read was, one, because I didn't want other people's energy around me. As a pregnant woman, I got very protective of the babies. And secondly, I wasn't in a space to read. And this is where I'm heading. I'm heading to where I'm going with the book. And when I say that is, people will come to you, and you know yourself, you're a reader. We're human at the end of the day. Sometimes we can't give them everything they're praying for. I had my head somewhere else. My head was with, oh my God, I've got to go and buy this for the babies, or I've got to go do this. And I just stopped. I went, this is not fair on the client. I'm not giving them my full everything that I had. And I said that I would eventually, like one day, maybe go back to it. And I have through Embrace, and I've done it in a different way. But I know working full time as a psychic can take a lot out of you, and it just drained me at the end of the day. And I guess because I was young too, I didn't know how to protect myself energetically back at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that there was a lot of psychic attack on me from older psychics because they were much older and I'm still in my 20s, and I was very busy. And they're thinking, well, how is she able to do that? But what they didn't understand is that obviously that's part of my destiny, and I believe in destiny so strongly. I believe that we're all being born with a gift of something. Now, in my book, I talk a lot about me wanting to be on stage. I've always wanted to be in acting and theatre. I just love it. But the thing I can't do is sing. I've never been given a singing voice. And no matter how much I go to singing lessons, I'm never going to be able to sing. And I think that it's the same thing for a psychic. If you don't have it in you, it's not there. And I know a lot of other psychics are going to disagree. I know a lot of people say, oh, you can learn it. I don't believe that it's not innately in you. It's the same as an artist. I'm never going to be able to
I love that.
A street artist did that, and I watched her do it. It took her about 10 minutes to do. There's no way in the world could I ever do something like that. That's her God-given gift. So I think we've all been given a gift of something, and once we work with that gift, that's when things start happening. So in the book, I talk about that and how I have come across lots of people over the years who picked up a tarot deck of cards with Embrace, for example, never looked at a deck before, never done a reading before, and then, 6 weeks later, they're out charging $500 because all of a sudden they've become a psychic. All of a sudden, I'm never going to be able to paint that. All of a sudden, I'm never going to be able to it just doesn't work like that. And that's my opinion. So I know that people will not fully agree with me, but I've seen it over and over and over in the industry of people just waking up one day and all of a sudden they're a reader.
Yeah.
And also too, I've seen it with readers that I've had Embrace, and I have also been fooled many times. We were in San Francisco last year, and everywhere you go in San Fran, every single corner there's a psychic shop. And Ross, my husband, was like, "Where did you get a reading?" And I'm like, "No, you can tell that they're as dodgy because they've got the flashing lights and they look like those places that are really hidden as brothels, and no, but he wanted to surprise me, so he'd organised a reading with this woman. And as soon as I went in there, I should have known better because I walked in and energetically the place was dirty. There was rubbish out the front. She had a baby's bottle on the table that she was reading from, and there were baby toys everywhere. Like energetically, she hadn't prepped. I just knew straight away, but then I got fooled, and she was pretty good. She got $500 out of me in the end. She was really good. If you want to hear that story, that's in the book, the whole story of how it works. And so there's a lot of charlatans out there, and it's easy to be able to do that. I can't fake to sing, but a person can fake to read somebody.
And do you think, like, I feel a little bit now, are we getting into that where people are more awake now than ever to connect in with energy? And I think, for those that aren't in it for the right reason, I do believe there'll be that sort of pulling back of people connecting with that.
I feel that's been happening. I've noticed a lot of people that had worked at Embracer who are no longer with us. I can see that a lot of them have had to go on to different careers and maybe work on their God-given talent and whatever that might be. I've I've worked with thousands of psychics in the 30 years. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot. And when I say I've seen a lot, like, just trust me. I've been to events where a psychic's had a little ear thing and they've got their little mule outside talking to people.
Wow.
I know the tricks of the trade. And I also know that people can be fooled very easily. And I've got a thing about, grieving people. I think it's sad when someone's grieving that they can be taken advantage of. I've seen that happen many times. And I've been very privileged to work with some of the best. And Scott's up there. He's just a genuine soul. And I've worked with some people that nobody's ever heard of until they read my book. Some of the best psychics I know are probably people who no one's ever heard of. They're not on Facebook. They're not on Instagram or any social media.
Yeah.
They don't have websites. They don't need to be a celebrity psychic. That's another thing that gets me all rolled up. So I've just basically written my experiences. Obviously, I've had to change names and stuff like that, but everything's been true through the eyes of Rosie.
Amazing. And what an amazing journey. And like you say, I mean, I can't imagine people having earpieces and doing that, but obviously it goes on. And for the most of us, we would have no idea that would be the case.
No. Well, I mean, you're in the field, so the kind of people that will come to you. People are desperate and people want answers for things. And some people, even the smartest, I like to think I'm smart, and that San Francisco psychic had me hook, line, and sinker. So people want to believe something. And I've seen people at their most desperate where they'll take on anything that a reader will say. And I also, too, not because I'm eavesdropping and I'm not, but, you can't help but hear what's going on in the back room when you're in the shop. And I hear stories of people, and then I hear what the psychics are saying. And sometimes the answers could be very generic, and they can apply to anyone for any question they have.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little bit, I'm probably the most skeptical psychic I know out there.
But that's so healthy, isn't it, really? And I think sometimes, you need to have a healthy dose of that to be good at what we do, I think, to be able to go, I don't want to just give a generic reading or something where, all the boxes are ticked, or, sometimes you think, oh, God, does that sound, sounds basic or something, but it is about having that integrity behind the information.
I mean, I talk about a story in my book where there was a reader we had, they no longer work for us, and he believed someone had alien entities attached to them. And my intuition and every bit of my fibre went, no. And I'm the first for a bit of alien conspiracy. I love it. I totally into it, but you just know. And you can't tell a person who doesn't work with this sort of stuff. They've got an alien attachment to them. It scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of me. I know what I'm doing. In the end, what this person had was they worked in mines, and they work with this high vis sort of, what do you call those shiny things that they
but
so every time a photograph was taken of this person, there were all these orbs, and they looked very, very impressive. And so we, along with my friend Janine, who I just think is just one of the most brilliant psychics ever and paranormal investigators, those things she said was, no, there's no spirit, there's no nothing. It has something to do with his work. And then we all went and did a bit of an investigation and found that all the other guys that worked at the same mine had the same things happening in their photographs. And it ended up in the end just being to do with this glare that was in the cotton of his work thing, and it created all this orby look. So we were able to tell him that and give him a straight answer without having to add a little bit of alien stuff. The poor guy, and he was a blokey, like big guy, full of muscle and tattoos, and he was shitting himself. He was like, oh my God.
I was just going to say that's not something people really want to hear. And it is, you know, when people do come to you, they are vulnerable to, you know, if you're going to put things, you know, people can manifest things to happen if they believe what you're saying enough.
I totally believe in that. We've had a lot of people come into who are very suicidal. So you've got to tread carefully.
Mm.
You have to. And they will believe anything that the psychic tells them. And then you've got psychics who just tell them what the client wants to hear as well.
Yeah. There's got to be that balance, doesn't it?
So I talk about that through the book, and I talk about some tricks of the trade that I had, you know, have seen over the years. But then with everything that's negative in the book, I have a positive to go with it.
Yeah. But you can't have one without the other, can you, really?
No, it's like the dark and the light. And like I said before, it's like Star Wars in a way, you know, and there's a little bit of dark in all of us, and it's how we choose to it's what we choose to work with. Yeah, actually, the other day, believe it or not, I have never seen a Harry Potter movie until recently. Ever. So my 14-year-old daughter has just discovered Harry Potter, and she's like, Mom, you've got to watch this movie with me. Mom, you're going to love it. And I just don't have 2.5 hours to sit down and watch something. So anyway, she finally convinced me, and now I'm hooked, and we've got one movie to go. And I don't even want to watch it because I don't want it to end. I am so hooked. But the other day, I went, stop it right there, just stop. And I wrote down notes, but I can't even remember who said it, but someone said that there's a bit of dark in all of us. It's which way we want to choose. We want to go with the dark, or we want to go with the light.
And for some, I suppose it's not always obvious, like it might be a subconscious thing that they're not fully aware of either.
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. And I think too, when we talk about subconscious, a lot of people in our industry do have that financial lack mentality. Yep. So I don't know if they are 100% aware that they do it, but I've always come from a business background and I love business. I love it. Like, I love it. And Ross is like that too. So together, I always feel like we're a bit of a mighty force when we're together. Before I met Ross and straight after school, I went into work at the Australian Stock Exchange. So I've got that background when it comes to investments and things, and also just having family and retail my whole entire life. So it's in my blood. But I find a lot of psychics really struggle with making money.
Yeah.
I know that sounds a bit crazy, and they seem to feel that money and this industry just don't work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they feel, sorry?
And that's what I loved with you and I chatting prior to coming on here. I love your entrepreneurial spirit and all that you've done within the industry, because it really stands out to say, look, you know, here's what you can do.
Yeah, and it's not about doing it to show off or about being money hungry, but I like nice things in life, and I don't want to feel bad because I like that. I like to live in a nice place, and I like to wear nice things. It's just a part of who I am, and I want to leave a legacy behind. and a good legacy too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's sort of setting that intention, isn't it, to say, you know, I can be abundant. And it's almost like that deservability, isn't it? We need to have that deservability and that being comfortable around money and, you know, having more than enough, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I know that after we finished we had a 3-year stint during the Festival of Dreams. I wished I knew you back then. We would have had you there for sure.
Oh, it sounded amazing. I was like, oh my God, you need to be still doing that, Rosie.
Oh no, that actually became bigger than anything we ever dreamed of doing. We just did that. We took a 3-year contract at the Horton Pavilion, and I just said to Ross at the end, I'm not doing anymore. It just was too big. And it was amazing how we were able to run it around the kitchen table. Like that's how it all started, with a couple of friends and amazing friends too. And Diane, who I know she does some work with Scott now. And we weren't in events. None of us had ever done an event. But the way we pulled it off, it was hard work. And we had to work with hundreds of psychics. And psychics are not the easiest people to work with. Let me tell you that. Everyone is very precious, and a lot of ego. That's all I'm going to say.
The rest is in the book.
For more information, get the book. Now I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, that's right. After our third event, we received an email. It was directed at me from one of the psychics, and basically accusing me of being greedy and accusing me of how dare I make money on this industry and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. And I just thought, that's sad. That's sad that they got that. This was my gift. And, they always say, do what you love and the money will follow. And that's what I have done. My husband's a builder, and he's a freaking amazing builder. He's done the same. He's followed his passion. He's followed his gift. And I've seen that with so many other friends. I've got a friend who's in theatre, and I've always said to her, just let me go up on the final bow. I've always wanted to do that final bow on the stage. And you should hear her sing. She's friggin' amazing. And she gets loads and loads of work, but because she's just followed what her gift was.
Yeah.
And, when we had the festival and we got that email at the end, I just thought that's really sad that a lot of people in our industry have this mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sad because it really, you do see it a lot. I agree. Like, it seems to be a real struggle, or people feel like it's tainted if they get money from doing something they love. But it's no different to any other talent, exactly like you explained. Like, if you're good at something and it's your time, you have to be reimbursed for that. It's an exchange of energy. It's really amazing what people attach to money.
Yeah, and I've also noticed too, Tonia, people don't realise, and you mentioned this to me before we came live, about how you get excited for people's successes. I get really excited when I see people I know, even if it's a staff who's gone on to do something amazing in the industry. I get excited because I know that is what they're born to do. So I was never born to be on stage and be the next Carly Minogue. It wasn't going to happen. But I'm born to do what I'm doing. You're born to do what you're doing. We're all born to do something. And I really believe in that very strongly. So to have a jealousy or to have something against someone because of what they're doing, that shows that you don't understand the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
Basically. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. And there's your block there, isn't it? I mean, money will always be a struggle if you see it as something that's separate from you and not in alignment with who you are, and I think that's, you attract what you attract that vibration, don't you? So it's always a fascinating thing. And I think for people that are struggling, and there might be some watching today on the show or watching this later, you know, you only have to dig a little bit deep and explore your internal dialogue with money to really be able to get to the bottom of what, you know, if there's a block there, and we can all work on that personally ourselves. And I think sometimes that's part of our human journey, is to go, okay, where do things sit with me? If there's something not working in my life, I need to delve deep and get what is that restriction I have around it.
Yeah, and there's also too that fear of failing. I don't like to fail, but I have failed in a lot of things, but I'm not going to go put that all over social media.
Yeah.
Do you know, I made a wrong business decision and we just lost lots of money. It happens.
Yeah.
If anyone thinks it doesn't happen, they're lying. You've got to be willing to take that risk, and you will fail. That's just no doubt about it. People will fail, but you'll also not fail at things. And there comes a time where you just, like, in the way I look at it now, with any risks that we take, I'm like, what have we got to lose? Really, what have we got to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all down to experience otherwise, isn't it? And
and
you got to have fun with it, Rosie. And that's something that I've picked up, you know, just chatting to you. You're having fun. It's exciting to be able to, you know, to go, oh, what's our next challenge, or what am I doing next? And what am I, you know, all your gifts with your cards, obviously, and your book. And obviously there's many more books within you, which I can tell today just chatting. But, you know, they're all things that, you know, your gifts to the world, and to get that abundance with that is exciting.
Yeah, and I've been really blessed, but I believe that I've had to do a lot of that as well. So that's one of the messages that I like to tell people, is that, yeah, sometimes we are lucky, but how do you get lucky in the first place? You've got to take that risk. You've got to just believe that you can make it happen, and you've got to be prepared to fail.
Yeah.
You've got to be prepared. You know, we closed our big shop 18 months ago, and there were a few reasons behind why we closed it. I knew that things were changing, and we were paying massive rent. We're paying over $5,000 a week in rent. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
And I was prepared to pay that sort of rent because the people were there. You know, you're paying for a big shopping centre, the people are going to be there. But I also knew that time was coming that the people are not going to be there, and it's time to go online, and I had to take that risk. And I'll tell you now, I was sick. I knew deep down that I was doing the right thing, but I still questioned myself. And it's been the best thing I ever did. But it took me a long time to realise that, you know.
And I think too, it takes time, doesn't it? I think that's one thing. We've been geared towards everything happening overnight, and I think that's another thing with this journey, is success isn't, you don't just start your business and all of a sudden, you know, things absolutely go gangbusters. I mean, ideally that can happen here and there, but it's also the work behind the scenes, and, you know, you've got to build and grow. And it's, you know, I think sometimes people forget that.
Yeah,
you know, you've got to stick with it.
I'm yet to meet any business person, and a very successful business person, who has become who was an overnight success. I've got to get met one. It takes a long time to be successful, and it takes guts, and you've got to be prepared to not be liked. A lot of people that don't like me, I know that. I know they think that I'm a horrible boss. Not my girls that are with me now, but people think, because you have to make decisions sometimes based on business, not based on the heart. You have to make hard decisions for the business, and I do struggle with that still now. I still have, you know, the spiritual side and the business side. It is hard, and that's where I have Ross as my conscience. Like, he can just be business, so I guess I've got him to sort of put me in line sometimes.
He's the voice of reason, saying, no, we can't do that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, but, you know, they've got to, you know, I worry about people. I worry they've got to pay your rent, or they've got to do, you know, things like that. I worry about customers, or they can't really afford it. Can't we just give it to them for free? Things like that. It's there. Like, it's hard to sort of, it is hard when you're a bit of a softie like me to not bring that into your business day. But like I said, Ross is my voice of reason. And when it's not there, I'm like, take it, you can have it. It's all right.
Good on you. And that's part with having a big heart, isn't it? And when and I think that's the thing within this industry, like you have that sensitive side. So you do tune in and connect with people that sometimes you just want to be able to reach out and help.
Yeah. And I do love doing that. I mean, that's a part of our everyday business at Embrace, is that we get to help people. And I like helping the everyday person. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day, Tonia. Everyone wants to be involved in some sort of charity. We all want to help someone at some level. And I was thinking about all the charities, and I thought, you know what? I actually like the fact that we're helping just everyday person, not necessarily. I mean, we do have our charities that we work with, but every day we get to help the you and me people.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. And someone come in feeling really down and they'll walk out with a smile. Or even if they just walk in just because they happen to walk past a shop, they'll come out with a smile at the end of it.
You can't beat that as a it's a feel good, isn't it? Like, as in to see the difference, and you can see it energetically from when they walk into them, when they walk out, it's like instant.
And I'll tell you who my favourite customers are, the kids. I love the kids. We have a big, massive bowl of fairy crystals. So for the girls, it's a fairy crystal, and for the boys, they're wizard crystals. And when they come in, they get given a scoop. We just give it to them. And we always say to them, this is for you to put under your pillow. So when you go to bed, you give all your fairies your worries and you'll have no more problems. Or you make your wishes on them and just give them that hope. And they walk out of there, and we put the magic spray on these crystals, and they walk out like they're carrying a bag of diamonds.
Isn't that beautiful?
I know these kids will never forget that. They'll always, when they're our age, remember that woman at that shop that was in Westfield Miranda, and they will remember being given that and given something to believe in a bit of magic.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So beautiful. And the kids of today are so, like, they're way more open than I look back when I was that age. It's like there's just so much more. There's so much more in tune to it. And I think energetically they're able to, because we're more open, I suppose, as parents, and being that bit older, we can look back and go, I wish I had that, that support back when I was that age.
Yeah, well, they didn't have any shops like Embrace back then, but also our parents weren't as supportive as what the parents are now. So a lot of the parents have grown up with Harry Potter, like they've grown up with that. We didn't have that.
No, it's like that bit of magic.
Yeah, and I always think, one of those kids will be a doctor one day. One of those might be my accountant one day. One will be a director, one will be somebody's mum, and somebody will be the person serving my pharmaceuticals at Priceline, or just whatever. They're all going to be something when they grow up, and I just think it's important to give the kids hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Rosie, you've been amazing, and your insights are great. I don't think I've actually spoken to anyone so far with all of our interviews that's been in the industry for as long as you. So I love the fact that you've shared your experience, which is really fantastic.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun with you. I can't believe we're already into nearly 50 minutes.
I know, Scott. Yeah, that's right. No, I'm very aware of time, and it's like, I know that you're very busy. And Scott was like, we could pull some cards. I'm like, Scott, Rosie and I are not going to stop talking. So, but I do encourage people to get on and buy a deck of Rosie's cards. They're absolutely amazing.
They're so much fun.
Yeah.
I just found from Trudy that they've been doing really well in Europe. They've really taken them by storm over there. So I'm really excited, but they're the cards.
Yeah, they're awesome. And I think it's something a bit different. So there might be that person that's a bit like not necessarily have any cards or a collection, but would be intrigued by, oh, there's chocolate there. Let's, you're opening up a whole new clientele, I can see.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you see the cards and you see the meanings to each chocolate, it'll all make sense.
Yeah, I was amazed at when I was checking them out. I'm like, wow, you think, oh, yeah, what are you going to get from a chocolate? I suppose that's human nature to go, oh, what would that be? But when you actually see the words of encouragement and the messages, it's like they're really profound. So I encourage everyone, you've got to get yourself a deck. They're amazing. So thank you so much, Rosie, for coming on board and being part of our team. I look forward to catching up in person down the track a bit, which will be no doubt.
Sydney, and we'll have you at Embrace. We'll have you at Embrace. I'd love to have you for a day there.
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely. I can't wait. Traveling is one of my biggest things, and I'm like, at the moment, I'm at home on the farm, so I'm doing a lot of grounding this year, but as soon as those borders open up, I'll be like, whoo, I'm out of here.
Yeah, we're missing it too. Trust me, Ross and I are really missing it.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and much love to you, Rosie. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.